there, welcome to Prop Live Q&A. I'm Bill, and today, I'm just going to dive right into it because we have another incredible guest for the Q&A. We have Blair from Chaos Cosplay. Hello!
Hello! How are you?
We're doing pretty great over here. We're experiencing some growing pains from moving into a new shop, but we've kind of started organizing things. I don't know what's going on with these chairs behind me. They're just sort of sitting there right now. But everything's pretty great. Yeah. For the uninitiated, you go to chaoscostumes.com. You can go check out all of Blair's awesome stuff. I'm just going to bring up your Instagram really quickly so people can get a taste, just a taste of the sheer awesomeness that you're delivering to the internet and the world. A lot of hooves, which I think is a really cool sort of niche costume thing that you seem to have tackled head on. And of course, if those you got some right there to show off for us. Look at that.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness, that's so cool.
Yeah, that's my job now.
that's just my, trust me. I have the same thing when I try and explain my job to someone else. They're like, "Really, you could make a living doing that?" I'm like, "I guess so."
Surprise! There's so many here. Oh no, there's God, I'm buried. Oh, problems.
if you guys see a costume out there that's got some really cool hooves or stilts in it, there's a good chance that Blair here had something to do with it. Of course, if you look up Chaos Costumes on Instagram, you can find Blair's awesome work. You should go follow her over there, as well as if you go to chaoscostumes.com, that'll bring you to Blair's Etsy store. Which I don't have up. Hold on one second. I will get this because I have links right there. There we go. So I want to bring this up before we dive into questions too, so that people get a good taste of what sort of things you have to offer. But you got a ton of really cool stilts, or stuff like stilts. So there's a stilt frame. You've got creature feet and custom deluxe knee-high hoofs. You've got all kinds of amazing footwear options. And what I want to know, I guess I'll kick off the question before we dive into fan questions, is how did your life take this drastic turn? That's what I really want to know.
It all started with personal costume projects, as it very well does for most of us. And I started making the stilts for like this succubus werewolf cosplay thing. And then I posted it on YouTube, and then people watched those videos and they're like, "Can you make these?" And I'm all like, "You'll give me money to make them?" "Oh, sure, I'll take your money." And so I took their money and I made them, and it kept evolving into stilts, and then stilts with stuff on it. And then a German cosplayer saw another cosplayer do hoof shoes, and they asked me like, "Could you do that?" And I was like, yes, if you give me money. And that's where it all began.
It's such a simple thing. Oh wait, you'll give me money for that? I guess that's what I'm doing now. I've got a video up on screen just showing you putting some hoof stilt things on that end up getting armor on them, which I think is really cool. It's cool too with the overlapping armor plates. It really kind of sells the effect that's really your feet. I think that's just awesome.
I actually have them downstairs, but it's a trip.
Yeah. Someone was a quick one. Someone was curious about the skull on your desk behind you there. What is that?
That is from another creator. She is called the Monster Forge, and she's a good friend of mine. And I really want to make this like skull mask that I really like the sculpture of, and eventually I'll finish that. But now it's on my like to-do project list.
That's great. Yeah. I like our prop tarts in the chat are getting really excited. It said, "Oh my OMG, it's the genius with the hooves." Ringleader Luna said that. And someone else was asking, why does she have a skull on her desk? And I like the response, from Dagger Elk. He says the real question is why don't you have a skull on your desk? I should. I have a couple skulls over there. I should go grab my skull. Actually, you can see the Draugrs right there. There we go. I got my skulls. That is fantastic. Cool. Well, you've got a lot of really cool things going on. What are you working on currently? What are you excited about?
Well, for C2E2, I was really excited about articulated wings. Like, there's a couple of videos and stuff on my Instagram. I followed tutorials from the Crooked Feather.
Yes.
But I bartered Hooves to get a minor discount off of a frame that she built me, just the aluminum frame. So yeah, that took like legit like 80 hours full-time work to just put feathers on them. It was crazy.
Jeez. That's so crazy. I like that. I like that when you're kind of known for a thing, that becomes kind of your currency. So you're known for, you're like, well, I barter it. It's not necessarily that you sell hooves. You barter in hooves. You are in hooves. And you can offer hooves as a form of payment for things.
Pretty much.
Next time you need to get your your oil changed, be like, this should cover it, I think. Slide a pair of hooves over the desk.
I was like, you owe me money now.
Yeah.
Change me.
Real quick before we dive into the questions, everybody watching live, thank you guys so much for hanging out. I see people throwing some questions in the chat. If you want us to tackle your question, go to punishprops.com/live. There's a form there. You can quickly fill it out, and that'll email us your questions so we can keep everything nice and organized. So head on over and do that. We will jump into your questions in just a moment. Before we do that, I want to point out one thing that we worked on. Let me find my notes here. We built an epic prop wall. It's something people ask us a lot is how we display our props. So we built a prop wall. You can kind of see it behind me. This sort of grid looking thing here. That was our most recent video. So if you're looking for a really creative way to display your props, that's one way to do it. And as a teaser, we are working on a video. Brittany is actually working on a video right now to display costumes in a creative manner. So look forward to that coming out very soon. I'm curious, Blair, if you have a favorite way to display your props and costumes.
I just ran out of space.
Yeah.
So I have one mannequin that I keep piling accessories on. And so it's a werewolf.
Yeah. And
then it also has armor, and it also has a zip tie mohawk from Wasteland Weekend, and it just keeps building.
Is Wasteland Weekend soon? Is that coming out? Is that happening soon?
No, it's like September.
Okay,
so
okay.
After Dragon Con.
All right. That's good. Everything. I like that how many things when they happen are in relation to Dragon Con. Like, oh, that's a month before Dragon Con. Fantastic. Well, we got lots of fun stuff coming out here. Before we dive into the questions, which are happening very soon, I'd like to point out one quick thing over on our Patreon channel, punishprops.com/Patreon. We've been posting regular vlogs. There's a handful of them about our moves, so if you want some behind the scenes, look into that. And then we're going to keep that up even though we've moved. We're going to do regular vlogs every week now. So there's one of those coming out tomorrow, and if you're a patron at any level, then you get access to it. So thank you guys so much, those of you who support us through there. It's really fantastic, and we're trying to make more value for you. All right, cool. I think we should dive into some questions. What do you think, Blair?
I think so. That'd be great.
Great, because I have a bunch of them here. And, oh, you know what? Actually, one more thing I wanted to do. I haven't done this in a couple of shows. I want to show the Prop Tarts and what they're up to on their Facebook page. So the Prop Tarts of Punish Props is the Facebook page. If you're a member, then you get to see what everyone else is working on. So real quick, we've got Levi working on a DL-44, a little something from Han Solo. Very cool. I see a lot of people, this is the thing I like a lot, is people posting projects they're working on, asking for help, or offering suggestions. Really fantastic. Daniel here is showing how strong his clamp game is. Got a lot of clamps. Very good. And let's look at... oh, and then another thing. This is actually really cool. Our buddy Silent Warlock posted a link to the new Assassin's Creed game is going to have... you could be either a male or a female protagonist, and they put out a cosplay reference kit, which I think is like the coolest thing ever. I wish more video games would do that. So yeah, if you're looking to get into Assassin's Creed cosplay, that'd probably be a really good jumping off point. Awesome. All right. Now it's time for questions. Once again, if you're watching live, punishprops.com/live is where you want to go to submit your questions. The first one comes from Brittany, who is just in the other room, and she wants to know what your dog's name is.
Oh, her name is Yuka, and it means tender flower.
I'm trying to find a... Oh, wait, I got a picture right here.
I have a dog right here. But she's like all the way down here.
Oh, my goodness.
Yuka, come here. Oh, no. Oh, no. She is a very tender flower. And
oh, my goodness. She looks a lot like our friend Shane, who's a very very tender. You got a very, very wonderful photo of Yuka up on your Instagram. In fact, it's worth following Blair on Instagram just for photos of such a regal creature, I think.
If you want to see her more often, I do post. I have an Instagram under my full name, and I kind of spam post her.
That's great.
There we go.
Awesome. Let me grab the next real question. Brittany, since Brittany organizes the notes, she gets to put questions wherever she wants. All right, this one's kind of generic, but could you give us like the more props art cosplays? Curious about your hooves. I think we all are. Do you have a sort of a general, just a handful of steps how they are constructed, like what the process is like?
Well, first we start out with a sculpture, like anybody else would, and then I build. Hold on, it's over here. Then I build a mold around aforementioned sculpture. I actually have a glow forge now, and I make my mold boxes with it. So like I can, instead of foam core, I cut out laser cutout things now.
Wow,
so that's love.
Well, that is pretty great.
And then we pour the resin into the mold, right? And then cast it, and then attach the shoe, right? And honestly, like my proprietary secrets are how the shoe is attached. But like if you like are smart enough, you can figure it out.
But that's just a big old hunk of resin. That's pretty cool.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Have you done, I imagine you've done many different types of hoof designs? Like, do you have, you got feet. Are those like a werewolf thing?
Yeah, like wolf paws. I try to be as anatomically correct and also make it a shoe at the same time. So the beans are actually rubber. Ooh. Yeah, so this is filled plastic, so I have micro balloons in there, so it's a little less heavy. And then this is urethane rubber as well.
That's super cool. How many? Another one I'm curious about is just how many different creature feet sculpts have you made?
Well, it depends on the sizes. Like the types, I have cloven, I have horse, and I have wolf, and I have three-toed bird thing going on. But I've sculpted different sizes, like 3 different sizes for each design, ideally. Oh, okay. But so far I only have one size of the wolf paws and one size of the talons.
That's something I didn't even consider, that you would have to have several different size options for hooves. Everything from your big burly werewolf man to your tiniest petite fawn.
Exactly.
That's super cool. Do you have any specific new sculpts you might be doing for one of your own costumes?
I do actually, because I am really bad at walking in high heels, ironically enough.
Yeah.
And so I'm making like boot cover thingies that go over shoes, so I can have like little wolf paw beans and then like put fur over it so that I have just like cool feet with a
Oh.
flat foot design.
So for that one, the heel would be on the ground, and that just kind of covers the toe.
Yep, pretty much.
That's awesome.
That's actually how I started. I forgot. I used to make hoof cups that slide on with elastic with Warbler. And I would do that, and I would sell that. And for Halloween, that was like my big sale, and I would like sell 30 of them. I was like, oh my god!
That's great. Cool. Well, thank you for the question that came to us from More Props Art Cosplay. Next one comes from Abigail B. Curious about giant prop gun. I'm building a Rocket Raccoon cosplay, and I'm building his giant blaster gun. It is huge, and I'm wondering what you would suggest to make the size happen, but not the weight. Meaning, would you make it hollow and have some supports in the body, or would you do layers of foam and carve it out and have it be solid? I have some ideas, but I'd like to hear what Blair thinks first.
Oh god. Honestly, I would watch Punish Props videos very thoroughly and buy Punish Props book, like the Foam Smith 1 and 2, and figure out which way to tackle the project, because I would have no idea where to begin. But I would probably start with like a PVC framework and then build on top of that. But I don't know what it looks like, so I can't troubleshoot it off the top of my head.
I think with most projects, what my wife Brittany and I like to say is everything ends up being a mixed media project. So you might start with making a frame out of PVC pipes, and then to bulk it out, you might just use insulation foam, parts that you're never going to see, just to build out that space, so you don't have a hollow cavity that you can't attach things to. And then you might do all the outer detail pieces with EVA foam. You could even get away with foam core for some stuff. It really just depends on your budget, what tools you have, how much time you have. But your EVA foams are going to be awesome and fairly lightweight and durable. The XPS or insulation foam is going to be super lightweight, although not as durable. You're just kind of have to kind of work your way through that. But they're fairly cheap materials. It's not a bad thing if you get a whole bunch of it and don't end up using it all, because you'll end up using it on something else. So that's what I think. Good luck on your giant Rocket Raccoon blaster gun, Bill. Abigail. And let's grab another one. One Time Props is making the shells for the portal gun out of a Pepakura file, but I'm going to be covering the paper craft with fiberglass, Bondo, etc., and then making a mold for it. Are there any other methods for this, or is this the way to go? Molding and casting is a pretty... If you want to cast a really durable thing, I think it's a pretty good option. I mean, just about everything, or I'm not sure. I mean, for your hoofs anyway, everything gets molded and cast. Then you end up with a very durable piece.
Right. So, I actually made portal. I have a file in my store to make portal boots.
Well, let's go find that.
Yeah, I'm really pleased with them. I found like the perfect heelless shoes, and I had a commission for portal boots, so that I just slapped the file onto my store, so you can make it out of foam yourself.
That's awesome. That might be one of the only things. Oh, there it is. One of the only things that you and I have both built. I actually built portal boots a long time ago as a commission, not for me, as a commission.
Right? I have extra shoes, but like I haven't made some for myself yet.
Yeah.
I'm busy.
Oh, this is fantastic. So you've got patterns for $2 a PDF in your store. That's amazing. So if anyone needs the boots, head on over there and grab the pattern. I wish I had that for when I made mine. I had to pattern it myself. But for the portal gun, it depends on how durable you need it to be. If you fiberglass the Pepakura, it can be pretty durable. If you sand it nice and smooth and get it really where you want it to be, it might be durable enough that you don't need to mold and cast it. If you really want it to stand the test of time and be super durable, then make a mold and cast it. But it's up to you. Depends on how much time you want to spend it. I'm sorry, depends on how much time and money you want to spend on it.
Right.
Phoenix Revival's getting excited thinking about me rocking those portal boots. That's probably never going to happen. Sorry to let you down, buddy. Thank you for the question. One-time props. Deathbright, our buddy Deathbright, has an interesting question about making a tail like a snake or a dragon. This is something I've never tackled. Do you have any ideas, Blair?
Oh, I have lots of ideas.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, it depends if you want movement. Like if you want like a swaying side to side movement, you have to make like a segmented like kind of spine. So you can make that either out of like PVC and like fit it together with like little joints in the middle. And so like a hinge it will curl like that if you want it really narrow.
So that,
or there's some techniques where you take Sintra, which is like expanded PVC or whatever. You take like panels of Sintra and then have a nylon webbing in between, and so that acts as the spine, and so when you mount it, it will stay upright and it will sway back and forth. Another way to do it is one of my friends actually discovered that you can carve out, I think it's low density foam. It's either low or high density foam. That's kind of important, but you carve out like what is kind of like furniture foam and you sand it down into a tube, and then you have a tail that actually kind of whips around and everything, and it's like super light and super easy, and you skin it with just spandex.
Oh, so. Huh. Pretty cool. There's a whole bunch of options for you there, Deathbright. I figure if you're going to do the mechanical route, it's kind of like those toy snakes, right? With the linking bits.
Just like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I think you could do them like offset from one another, so it's kind of a droopy tail looking thing. You know, right. A droopy tail looking thing. Thanks for the question, Deathbright. And thanks for hanging out. She's in the chat right now. Let's see. We have Abigail with a question. Don't know if it's the same Abigail or not. I'm making a glass dagger for a Mistborn cosplay. It needs to be convention safe, very important, but I want it to be clear enough to have the illusion of being poured or carved from glass. Any suggestions? Quick, before we dive into techniques, I do want to point out that depending on the convention you go to, they may have different rules about specific materials your props can be made from. So keep that in mind before you go spend a bunch of money on materials. My first thought is just carving it out of several layers of cast acrylic, or I guess it could be extruded acrylic, but you could laminate some together using acrylic cement and then kind of carve it into a glass shape. It would be plastic. It would be clear. You could do some really cool texturing to it. If you're only going to make one, that'd be a really great way to do it. If you want to make more than one, you could mold and cast it. Yeah. I haven't done a ton of clear resin casting. I'm wondering if that's something you've done with Hooves. I don't know if there would be a reason to clear cast them.
Actually, I don't have them on me right now, but in my pinned stories on my Instagram, I have opalescent hooves that I'm working on.
Ooh.
And so that needed to be a clear resin. So I actually have a lot of samples here from like experiments on how to do it. This is, I think, smooth cast 325, and so it gets kind of clear. It cures really fast, but without vacuum or pressure degassing, it's very bubbly.
Yep.
This is one of the clear casts or some, I forget the name. It's the box is over there, but it is extremely toxic. But you don't need to vacuum degas, or you don't need to degas it to get like a decent transparency on it.
I think that's just the clear cast, right? The clear cast, is that what they call it?
I believe so. I think it's like clear class 220 or something like that. But and this is PT Flex, I believe. PT Flex 60, and it's kind of like a clear amber rubber, and so it cures pretty fast, and that's from Brick in the Yard mold supply. But yeah, I've been experimenting quite a bit actually with transparent resins.
I think maybe it's crystal clear from Smooth On. That's the clear one.
I can go over here. It's not like a bar. You can still hear me. It's crystal clear 202.
Okay, there you go.
But it's extremely toxic, and it will make your eyes water, and you have to have proper ventilation for real. So it's not really a hobbyist material.
We do. Whenever we've done some clear casting, we have a pressure pot. So we'll use like 325, put a tint in it, and then pressure cast it, and it comes out with no bubbles, which is super nice. Again, if you have the time and the money, and you want to sculpt, mold, make, and then cast your glass dagger, it's a really great way to do it, and it's plastic. It should be perfectly convention safe. And it's worth learning those skills and investing in that really great equipment if you're going to make several of them. Thank you for the question, Abigail. Next one is from Titan Armory. Ooh, question number 1. What is your favorite project you've ever worked on?
Oh, goodness. Well, I guess it's in the scheme of things, my favorite project is the one I'm working on, because like the journey is like my favorite part. But oh man, honestly, favorite. It's so much work, and then I would think back to it. It's like there was so much pain involved. But I think my favorite journey was the discovery when building this costume, my Rita Repulsa cosplay.
Yeah.
I was experimenting with like all these different techniques and stuff, and it came together so fast because foam is so fast, and it makes me feel so accomplished. And I experimented with different techniques. Like I used Urecoat after I painted it and then coated in Urecoat to give it that kind of like glossy, kind of slimy coloration. So yeah, I
found a picture on Instagram of you at DragonCon with Evil Ted, which is amazing.
Oh yeah, it was he geeked out, and I was like, oh my god, Evil Ted noticed me.
The second question is for me. Titan Armory is curious if when I'm posting the video for our big milestone. So we hit 250,000 subscribers on YouTube, which is incredible. That was like in January, and I was like, hey everybody, we're gonna have a big community project. And Jonah Loeb, one of my favorite artists, who made the Draugrs for Skyrim for the actual game, he designed a dagger for us, and then I was going to build it. I finished it, and I was getting it ready for mold making right before this podcast. So it should be done soon. That's really all I'm trying to say. It's very nearly done. Which is ironic because we're about 100,000 subscribers over that goal. So I just took a while.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you. Things got out of hand. So it's going to be more like a 350,000 subscriber project, but it is almost done. And I'm glad that people are still excited to see it, because I've been it took me a long time to get it done, mostly because we moved everything we own to this new shop. Thank you, Titan Armory. Let's see here. Zia? Z-I-A. Zaya? What is the best method to have a temporary tattoo? Zaya wants it to look like a birthmark. My upcoming cosplay has an oddly shaped mark. I was wondering how to make it look real. Oh, that's an interesting... I've never considered making a birthmark.
I would use alcohol-based makeup because it has a transparency to it and it doesn't rub off.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty. Like if it's a birthmark and it's just like a simple like coloration of the skin, there's tons of colors to pick from with alcohol-based makeup. And keep in mind that you need to get the solvent that comes with it or something similar. Because it's isopropyl alcohol won't work. You need a solvent that dilutes it and a wash or scrub that is meant for alcohol-based makeup.
But you could just then paint with the makeup, just sort of paint a birthmark on you. That's pretty cool. I do know too, you can get custom made temporary tattoos. I don't know where. I've seen people that I know that people do it. And I think there might be like websites where you can custom order them, and then you can just have a bunch of temporary tattoos. So you might look into that as well, or just paint it on. Maybe it's in a weird shape. Maybe you need a friend to help you paint it on. I don't know. Thank you, Zaya. It's a Trap says, what is your preferred way to create stencils? What is your preferred way, Blair? I have my preference, but
I mean, if I could figure out what plastic works in my laser cutter, that would be it. But beyond that, when I made the costume that the stilts go to, the crazy armored ones, I had to make my own textile with like the swirls, the swirls and curls and interesting markings on it. So I made my own stencil by drawing it in Photoshop or like Paint even, printing it out and then covering it in packing tape on both sides and then cutting out that design with an X-Acto. And so I got the exact shape that I wanted. It just took forever cutting everything out.
I do know, I've done this before. If you have a laser cutter, you can get big sheets of masking tape or transfer tape for a vinyl cutter, and you can just laser that. Vinyl adhesive, you don't want to laser that because vinyl has PVC in it and it's toxic. But masking tape, you can totally laser in your laser cutter.
That's awesome. Oh, not to mention, I sprayed the back of the stencils with spray adhesive.
Yes.
By the way, that's a step that's important.
That's also important. I use my vinyl cutter. Vinyl cutter's getting super cheap now. You can get like the Silhouette Cameo or the Cricut or whatever. But specifically, I use the Oracal as a company. They make something called Oramask 813. It's their paint mask stencil vinyl. It's crazy cheap. So, for example, $15 will get you a 12-inch wide roll that is, 12 inches by 10 yards. 10 yards long of 1 foot wide stencil vinyl. Now, you can cut that in your vinyl cutter, or you can just cut it by hand. You can totally just use an X-Acto to cut it out by hand. And it is a low tack, so if you're putting it on your prop or clothing or something, it's not going to stick really tight. And it's transparent. It's blue, but you can see through it. So when you're placing it, you can actually see through it. So yeah, Oramask 813 is the vinyl that I use. But you don't laser cut it.
I won't.
I feel like I'm the custodian of that bit of knowledge. What you can and can't put in your laser. Thank you. It's a Trap. Maddie Cat has a sculpting question. That's fantastic. We have a wizard sculptor here. Any tips for a beginner, mainly organic or animal type things?
Well, I mean, never forget to look at references. Like, that's with anything. If you want to make something good, make sure to look at references as you're going. Take pictures of what you're doing. It doesn't really matter what clay you're using. It will if you're casting or molding it in rubber. But, like, you could start with Sculpey. I know, like, a ton of sculptors that are really happy with, like, Super Sculpey and stuff like that. But I prefer Monster Clay. Monster Clay is like the creme de la creme of sculpting materials for me, and it's like $30 for a bucket, so it's not like it's super expensive, but it's a clay that you'll have to cast because it's not permanent. But always double check your references, step back and take pictures of what you're working on to make sure your eye isn't lying to you and say like, this is great, and then you finish it and you do it and then you have it and then you're like, oh my god, everything's wrong, I have to start over. But
if you're also something you could do is especially if it's something big, take a photo of it and then rotate the photo upside down and look at it upside down, so that you kind of erase your preconceived notions of what it should look like, and then you can kind of pick out the details. Core Geek is in the chat and he's using Monster Clay right now. Awesome. Really cool. The other great thing about clay like Monster Clay is it's reusable. It's never going to dry out. So you think about everything you sculpt as practice for the next thing, so that once it's done, you can just crumple it up and start again. Or even if it's not done, if you're halfway done and you're really disappointed in your work, you just crumple it up and start again.
Exactly. I like that. Oh, another tip for a beginner: you do not have to buy sculpting tools to sculpt. Like you don't need fancy materials. You can just start going at it because when you're learning, you don't know what you need. I have all these sculpting tools that I don't use ever because I thought, oh, I'm sculpting now. I'm gonna buy all these things. No, I use like a ballpoint pen and like one rake. And like those are my favorite tools. Oh, and a wire brush because the wire brush works really great to sand down bumps on the monster clay.
Very cool. Yeah, I think I bought like the cheapo like Michael's here's all the sculpting tools you'll ever need thing, and it came with like 15 tools and I only ever use like one of them. Mostly I think they're wax sculpting chisels.
Oh yeah.
That I got from Harbor Freight. Yeah, they're like they almost look like dentist tools, but they're metal.
Oh yeah, I like those as well.
Yeah, I use those for like most of my sculpting is when I'm claying up things for mold making, and I use those a lot. Hey, let's see here. Thank you. That was from Maddie Cat. The question. Thank you very much. Someone in the chat, let me see. Someone's curious about Thibra. I have not used it, but I actually just got some. They just sent me some to play with, and hopefully I get a chance to play with that soon. So more on that in a future thing.
Is Thibra this like a different brand of Warbler? Is that what that is? I'm
not sure. I haven't opened the box yet, but I think it's a thermoplastic. Again, more on that later, or more on that in the coming weeks, I should say. Let's see here. Oh, more props and art cosplay has another question. This is specifically about 3D printing. How do you make sure you 3D print at the right size when printing? Have you done much 3D printing, Blair, or should I field this one?
No, I've had other people do it for me, but for 3D print, when you 3D print, you get when you go into the program, you determine exactly what size it needs to be. So, you measure and then you input those measurements into the program, right?
Yeah. The good news is that if you're off by a factor of 10, you'll know. If you plunk it into if you put it into the software and it's this big in the software, you're like, that might be too small. Sometimes even if you scale it properly in your 3D modeling software, you dump it into your slicing software and they may have a disagreement about where the zero should go, and it's off by it's 10 times too big or 10 times too small. Normally that's easy enough to fix. You just scale it up by 100%. Core Geek says, I'm 3D printing right now.
Oh my god.
Eric, aren't you supposed to be resting? Yeah, I will say one quick note. If you're sculpting or 3D modeling or doing Pepakura or 3D printing armor, you could actually get an analog for your body size and shape. The website was called Make Human, but they've recently changed it. Makehuman.org? It has moved. It is makehumancommunity.org. There we go. And you can use their software. I believe it's free, and you can put in your measurements, and it will spit out a generic body model that's kind of your size and shape. And then you can dump that into your 3D modeling software, put armor on it, and it should be scaled at least pretty close. You can even put a prop in there and scale it next to your body, and then take that 3D model, send it to your slicer, and print it hopefully at the right size. The good news is once you do it a few times, you kind of get a feel for it, and you kind of figure everything out. Good luck, though. There may be some failures in the future, but that's nothing to be afraid of. Jeremy has a question. I've thought about tackling a gargoyle from the 90s Disney cartoon. That's awesome.
Yes.
Digistilts would be cool, and wings would be a must. Well, you've come to the right place. Thoughts on how difficult would that be? So, not even talking about technique. How challenging? I got a picture.
On a scale of 1 to 10,
yeah.
Well, it depends. Do you buy stilts from me, or do you want to make them? I sell instructions if you want to make them. I can make them for you. Wings, I mean, there's tons of tutorials online on how to make wings. It just depends on what you understand your capabilities are. Like, does it click with you? Do you get it? You're like, oh, okay. Like, you can make wings out of like like I made a back brace out of Sintra, which was a mistake. Don't do that because it cracked after a year. Like making a back brace and then mounting the wings to it, and then making like PVC framework, and then you can make bat wings that can be articulated by like pulling on a string and like epic costume. And so that paired with the stilts. But yeah, it depends on your understanding of what you know. Like to me, that's easy, but to you, that might be holy crap. Where do I begin?
Right. I would say if you've never done anything that has to be mechanically sound or has to have both moving parts and fit on a human body comfortably and without breaking, then it's going to be a little bit of an uphill battle. But fortunately, some nice people have done some really cool things and offer really cool services to help you get through that process. For example, you can get a stilt kit from Blair at Chaos Costumes on Etsy. You can head on over there. And then the Crooked Feather does wings, right?
Yeah, it's very expensive. It's very, very expensive. That's why I only bought the frame. Otherwise, the wings that I have that are in that video or in those pictures would be $3,000, $4,000. Yep. And I can't justify that cost.
But if you were to get like one of the frame kits, it's a couple $100, but the part where whatever this thing is that attaches to the part where it actually physically interfaces with your body is probably one of the most important parts. So maybe just buy that part and then design your gargoyle wings around it. Yeah. So you've got a lot of options out there. You could, this is what I would probably do. I would say, I'm going to do it myself. And then a week or two later, once I spent $300 or $400 and completely ruined it, I would be like, well, maybe I'll just pay someone to get this started for me.
Oh my goodness. That's pretty much why I bartered with the Crooked Feather, because mechanical engineering just doesn't click in my head. And she is a genius, and I trust her, and I got the frame, and I can make it pretty. And it was hard. I would sooner pay somebody else $4,000 to do it, because it was just that mind-numbingly difficult.
Yeah. So good luck, Jeremy, and keep us updated too. If you dive into this feat first, let us know how it turned out. Let's see here. We got Jules has a costume. I'm curious if there have been any hoof disasters that had to be dealt with. Oh, any hoof horror stories?
Hoof horror stories. Oh, goodness. I'm a very careful person. Like, I Google things for a really long time and like research and calculate like how I'm going to tackle it. So usually things don't turn out disastrous. However, the first pair of hooves I ever made, I asked one of my mold making / special effects friends, like, how should I do this? How should I make the mold? And he told me to put air bleeder holes into the hoof. Well, I didn't understand how gravity works when you turn the mold the other way around when you're ready to use it. I mean, the bleeder holes were the size of a toothpick, so it wasn't catastrophic, but it was very stupid because all of the resin ran down those little bleeder holes because I didn't make them go up above the air level.
That's great. Everyone who has done any discernible amounts of molding and casting has some really good molding and casting horror stories.
Oh my God, no! There hasn't been hoof disasters. I just remembered. Oh God.
Oh no.
So, when I was trying to make these, that was my biggest disaster because I didn't treat them like they were a hand. I treated them like they were a hoof. Mm-hmm. So the hoof has like a very sleek shape that can be pulled out of a mold in like one piece. Like, I don't need to make a special mold. This one, however, it has 3 fingers and it splays out, and I decided that I wanted to make the nubs like bigger, and I went to go extract it from the mold and it didn't. And then I cut it open one way and it still didn't come out.
Oh no.
And I was like, okay. And so I cut it out the other way, and I finally figured out, oh, I have to open it like a mouth, okay, and I pulled it out, and then I was like, okay, now I have to redesign this mold, so I made another one.
Yeah.
And it didn't work, because I split it the same way again, but I thought since I made it out of a more flexible rubber, it would let it go. I was sorely disappointed, and so there's this failure here that just lives in this bucket here that made me want to cry. And then I made another one, now knowing that I need to split it like a mouth, but I was super lazy, so I pretty much hot glued managed to pull one plastic cast that I had to like patch and fix. So I used that. I hot glued a paint stick to the top of it and hovered it in a brick of plastic that I made to contain the rubber mold that actually works. And so, yeah, that was that. Sorry, I forgot. I pushed it out of my memory because I was so traumatized.
Yeah. I like that you've kept the failed molds, though. I do that, too. Like, I'm like, I worked really, I'm never going to use that, but I worked hard on it. It was expensive, so I'm going to keep it. I've got my, it's hard to see here, but right in the background here, I have the Boolean Gemini that I built that I destroyed. I left it in a hot car and it melted.
Oh, no.
But, and it's hard to tell from here, but it's completely ruined. But I'm like, I am not getting rid of that. That's good. Someday I'll make another one, but that one's staying. I spent a long time on that.
But that's the biggest reason why I haven't released this product fully, because like the mold is barely holding itself together, and I can pretty much just manage to get my pre-orders done, and then I have to make a new mold.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Jules. Let's grab another one. Mythic Wings is curious. What is the easiest way to cut circles into something like foam? I currently only have the most basic of tools.
I have a thing that does it. It's really good. And I know you have your techniques of sharpened things, but
yes.
There's this compass with a blade on it.
Oh,
and it's the coolest fucking thing I've ever owned.
You know what? I think Evil Ted had one of those, and I was like, I need to buy one of those. But I didn't buy one, but I think I'm going to buy one now.
I don't know where I got it. I think I bought it at an art supply store in Texas because this guy that was I was interning with told me about it, and I was like, oh, there's a thing for that.
Core Geek says, hey, I sanded that Boolean Gemini. Thanks, Eric. I found it. The Olfa Rotary Circle Cutter. They got it on Amazon. We'll have a link in the show notes if you want to check it out. Yeah, it's just a little circle cutter. $17 on Amazon if you want to get it. Personally, I will either just cut it out by hand with a knife and then use a Dremel tool to fix it up, or I'll use my laser cutter, because that's mostly what I use my laser for, is cutting circles.
Oh my goodness, I have like a Q&A for you. What setting do you use on your laser cutter so it doesn't light the foam on fire?
So it depends on the power. So I have a 45-watt laser. So your settings, if you have a different wattage of laser, your settings may vary. The color of the foam makes a huge difference, and the thickness of the foam makes a huge difference. So black foam will, I think, absorb more light and therefore burn faster versus white foam. I think I might have that backwards. I can't remember.
No, you're right. I think you're right.
So yeah, what I've done is I did a bunch of test cuts on some scrap pieces of foam, and then when I got it really dialed in, I wrote down the settings on that color of foam and that thickness of foam, and I kept that piece next in a pile. I could find a better way to organize this, but anyway, I have like an idea of what the ideal settings should be for that color and thickness of foam. Lots of trial and error, though. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Foam fires ablaze.
Yeah.
I try.
Let's see. That came to us from Mythic Wings. Thank you. Good luck with your circles. Mithril Neth Cosplay says, I have modeled some pieces that would be 3D printed so that I can cold cast them. Plan to sand them down and use filler primer to prepare them for molding, but I'm wondering whether or not I need to seal them. Will the primer interact with the silicone? So it's going to be making a mold, a silicone mold of that. Wondering if he needs to seal the piece before he makes the mold. Do you do any sealing on when you mold one of your hooves, or do you pour silicone straight on the monster clay?
I pour silicone straight onto the monster clay, but when I use water-based clay, I actually clear coat the wetter water-based clay, and so I don't imagine spray paint has the chemicals to cause cure inhibition in silicone. I think they're friendly with each other.
Yeah, it depends. I think a lot of I personally don't. If I'm gonna mold something, I tend to use tin-based silicones because they have fewer curing inhibition issues. So I'll just pour, like, for example, the dagger, I'm gonna be pouring silicone directly after this. I'm using Mold Max 30, which is a tin cure silicone. That stuff's pretty bulletproof. It's not really picky. And I have a piece that I sculpted, and then I hit it with primer, and then I sanded it, and then I'm just gonna pour silicone right on that, and it should be just fine. For a 3D printed piece, I find that's pretty similar. If you use something like Mold Max 30 or tin cure silicone, you should be fine. You should totally be fine without spraying anything on it. Thank you, Mithrilneth Cosplay. We've got a couple more questions here before we wrap this thing up. Nerdy Views, our pal Nerdy Views, is curious. I'm in the market for a cordless rotary tool to use to shape foam outside, and we won't have an outlet. Any recommendations as to how powerful or how much voltage the tool would need? That is a very good question. Do you have any cordless power tools or rotary tools that you can recommend?
I mean, I technically have one that I just got from my friend who was cleaning out her shop, and I haven't used it yet, but it's a Dremel brand, and I would assume foam doesn't offer that much resistance, so you could probably use a cheap one.
Yeah, we've got this Genesis. Why the crap can't I find it? This little handheld one. It seems fine. I will say I've expected too much out of it, and it might be dying. Because the battery doesn't seem to last very long on it anymore, but I think it's had a pretty rough life. Looks like Dremel sells a battery-operated one that's about... looks like it's about $100. That seems like a lot. But it's got a lot of really good ratings. Just know that you really aren't gonna get the torque that you would get out of a one that you plug into the wall. But for foam, like Blair said, you don't need a lot of torque. So the way I look at it this way too with rotary tools is if you do a lot of prop and costume making, you're gonna go through rotary tools. So if you kill one, if you buy a cheap one and it dies, that's par for the course. I've killed a couple in my day. I've killed some of my friends as well.
Oh no!
I killed Grace, zombie. I killed hers, and then my brother's. I killed his too.
Oh my god!
So
You're a monster.
There's probably a reason why mine is dying. Thank you for the question there, Elton. Christian says, "What's your opinion on Alumilite compared to Smooth On? Do you mostly use Smooth On stuff, Blair?"
I use Polytech and Smooth On, and Alumilite. Is that a brand of resin or just powder?
They have a whole bunch of different resin type stuff, I think, but it is a brand. Yeah.
I have an epiphany about that. I actually talked to Smooth On Corporate at one point, and there's actually a funnel of where people get materials from. So pretty much every company that's selling resin right now, it's the same stuff. It's just how do they mix it, what ratio, how it cures. But the base ingredients are all the same. Like I have a different brand of resin from like resinsupplies.com or something like that, and it looks exactly like Smooth On stuff, but Smooth On just makes it more user friendly for like the consumer for the most part.
Yeah, I know my buddy Zach at NV Woodwerks. He does a lot of he makes blanks for turning pens, so really cool, colorful pens. And he uses Alumilite. I'm at their website. It's mold making and casting materials. So I think it's probably going to be very, very similar stuff. You just might not quite know what, if I say Mold Max 30, what the Alumilite version of that is. It's a shore hardness of 30, and it's a tin cure silicone. So whatever their version of that is, then it should be fine. I've personally never tried it myself because I've always used Smooth On and it works fine. And there is now a Reynolds like 2 miles that way. So
Oh no, I feel bad for your wallet. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Thank you, Christian. Quentin has a question about Pepakura. I recently finished crafting my first ever Pepakura piece, and I'm extremely new to it. I made a helmet. I was wondering if it's okay to do a layer of paper mache before I apply Rondo or Bondo or resin. I've never done that. The handful of times I've done Pepakura, I've gone straight to a resin, like an epoxy, and then I fiberglassed it. But I don't see why paper mache would be a bad thing.
Paper mache can rot because it's innate. Like depends on how you make the paper mache, but it can reabsorb moisture. And so if this is going to be a permanent prop, it has the potential to deteriorate depending on what you
That's good to know. Yeah. So maybe don't do that. Maybe just go straight to resin. The thing is that use cardstock for your Pepakura. When you brush any kind of resin on there, it will get wet and then kind of malleable, and it may deform a little bit. So you may have to get creative about supporting it before you go straight to resin. So, and I think I covered that in my, what did I make? I made a Pepakura mask like 6 years ago from League of Legends, I think. Juggernaut. I believe the character was Juggernaut. And there it is. Yes. And that's how I did it. I made this Pepakura file and I printed it out, and then I supported it. I put some wood and plastic inside the mask to support it, and then I brushed resin right on top of it and then fiberglassed it. There we go. Sometimes I do that. Sometimes I go back and I'm like, hey, it's a really good thing that this Bill guy made a great tutorial about that. Thank you, Quentin, and good luck on your Pepakura project. Last one comes to us from our buddy Silent Warlock. How do you usually transport something big, like wings or Warhammer armor? How do you transport your wings?
Okay, well, you don't. No, you have a big car.
You fly there, obviously.
Okay, so the way that Alexis's designs, like her bat wings are different, but her feathered wings are made with wire. So they can actually fit in a box because you fold the wire over and then they come off. They come apart. So the back brace and the wings are bolted together. You can take those bolts out and then like stack them onto each other and then fold the wings over, and that becomes more containable and shippable / packable. But I have made big costumes before, and I've had many regrets.
Yeah, I've never done anything gigantic like wings. Although, actually, a good example. It's not wings, but Brittany built Probius, a giant Starcraft probe from Starcraft, right? Protoss probe from Starcraft, and she did it all out of foam and designed every part of it so that it could come apart and fit in luggage. Like, it starts with luggage. Buy your luggage ahead of time so you know how big it is, so you know how small the pieces need to be to fit in there. What do you got, Blair?
Oh, no, exactly that. Like, I was like, yeah, that's good advice, because I did that, because with my Rita Repulsa cosplay, I had like a 6.5 foot staff that I made. And I bought luggage from Amazon before I put anything together so that I can make sure that it fits diagonally into my carry-on luggage, because it was my baby and I didn't want it to go in checked luggage. So I made sure it fit perfectly diagonally into my luggage, and then the rest can fit perfectly in these plastic trunks that I get from Walmart that I feel are like excellent costume totes.
That's great. Start with the luggage. We've got a build video on the probe if you want to check that out. I can't remember if we dive into how it gets packed into the luggage or not. But anyway, start with your luggage. Thank you, Silent Warlock, and good luck on whatever giant project you're about to embark on. And thank you everyone else for bringing your fantastic questions. You guys are awesome. Our prop tarts have been with us down in the chat this whole time. You guys are great. Keep it up and keep being awesome. Blair, thank you so much for hanging out with us for the last hour. Yeah. Do you have any events you'll be attending here anytime soon?
I'm actually judging the cosplay contest at Kitsune Kon up here in Wisconsin. I believe it's July 20 something. I don't know, but Kitsune Kon is the next convention I'm going to, and beyond that, I might go to Dragon Con. Dragon Con and Wasteland Weekend are so close together that I want to focus on Wasteland Weekend. But beyond that, I don't have any other plans.
Awesome. Well, if anyone's going to be at Kitsune Kon and they're in this costume contest, then this is who you have to impress. Fantastic. Thank you again. Everyone who has been watching, or if you arrived late, make sure you go check out everything that Blair's got going on the internet. If you go to chaoscostumes.com, that'll bump you over to her store where you can, where you have all of your hoof and stilt related needs handled for you right there. And of course, check out Instagram and give her a follow over there and see what she's up to. That's everything for today. Thank you again, everyone, so much for hanging out with us. And we'll do this again in, let's say, in 2 weeks. All right. Take care, everybody. Bye. Yay. Good job, everyone. That is the end. That is the end.